A free-flowing, full Darling River near Menindee is a spectacular sight, flooding paddocks for kilometres on end. An event like this comes roughly once in a decade and is a sight locals savour. More than 200 kilometres of river has burst its banks since the middle of last year. It couldn't be more different to the sick river which suffered through the dramatic fish kills of 2019.
3 years ago we were in a solid drought, so we had no water in the river. Exactly opposite. But, you know, that's living on the land.
Barb Arnold has been boating in and out of her property, Bindara on the Darling, since June.
It means if I want to go anywhere, it means a 9.5k trip downstream to where my vehicle is.
Barb runs goats on her station south of Menindee, but her business has essentially stopped since last year.
We were caught out a little bit because how high it was going to come and how high it actually came is a little bit different. So I've got goats spread around in different places. You know, I've got some over here on a hill and got some over there on a hill and a few in between over there and there. And so, yeah, it'll wait till the water goes down and put them all back together in the right paddocks.
The Darling River has reached levels not seen locally since 1976. With roads around the region cut and her homestead surrounded by water, it's meant Barb Arnold's station stay business has also been paused. She's hoping it'll restart in the middle of the year.
Our farm stay business has been null and void since April or May or something like that. So once the roads are cut, the public can't use them, the public can't come. And so our business is put on hold. And so we've been on hold all that long time.
Not that she's complaining. She's enjoyed the return of a huge number and variety of birds she hasn't seen since before the drought.
We've got over 152 different species of bird that's come here. Not all live here all the year round, some just migrate here to nest, which is lovely.
And while the birds have returned, so too have the fish, including the introduced and environmentally destructive carp. They have bred in epic proportions.
Yes, it's been such a long flood, both in the Murray and in the Darling system, that carp have had essentially a non-stop 2-year window to breed up.
Ian Ellis works along the Darling River for New South Wales Fisheries. He saw the fish kills of 2019 and has watched carp numbers in the system explode.
And when the rivers are in the channels, they don't breed up in huge numbers. They prefer this shallow stuff like where we're sitting now. They get out in that warm stuff and the adults will lay their eggs, which will sit in that warm water and develop very quickly.
And while millions are breeding across the state, he says many will die over the coming months as water returns into the river.
They've probably overdone it and there are too many of them. They haven't yet worked out in the 50, 60 years they've been here that when the water starts to drop, you're going to be stuck and you're going to dry out. So a lot of smaller fish are being stranded and dying, which is great. But we will see a noticeable jump in the population for the next 3 or 4 years.
With the Menindee Lakes sitting at 103% capacity, it's not just carp benefiting from the conditions. Native species are also thriving.
When they fill up, they're so nutritious, they're warm. Baby fish that drift into there don't have to fight the current, they're full of food. So you get this mass survival during flood events or high flow events. The Menindee Lakes and the Lower Darling are crucial to the Murray cod and the golden perch that most people love. And I don't think you'll speak to anyone that isn't happy to see yabbies going nuts again at the moment.
Ian and other fishery staff are monitoring the river as the water comes back into the Darling off the floodplains. They're particularly watching what oxygen levels are doing to avoid any potential blackwater events where fish suffocate.
When the flood finally recedes, it's like when you've washed your dog, you pour the bucket out, the very last bit of water's got all the dirt and the muck in it. That's coming in as the flood recedes, and that adds more carbon to the system, more sediment, more nutrients which help feed the algal blooms that are probably going to occur.
It's not just fishery staff who are watching the river. Barkindji man Eddie Harris grew up on these banks north of Menindee at Wilcannia.
Yeah, it's life, yeah. People always up and down to the river, fishing, camping. You know, our mob from away come home and set up camp down the river.
He says when the river is running, the mood in town completely changes.
I go away a lot, but I always come home to the river, and yeah, that's where I get all my, strength from, visions. When it's flowing, we are more active on what we do in the community here. Black and white. Yeah.
Eddie Harris says while the river is flowing, it's seen better days. He's hoping communities up and down the Murray-Darling Basin come together to ensure water continues to run into the future.
I think we all in this together. But if we could sit down and make sure that it keeps flowing, coming through, just by looking at the colour of the water, we know it's sick.
While the river has dropped significantly, there are still solid flows and more than enough for the local kids. But here in Tilpa, the water has receded back into the river, and now the hard work has begun to sow crops. For farmers like the McClures, it's a once-in-a-decade chance to make the most of paddocks which have spent months soaked underwater. 5 generations of McClures have lived on Killara Station, 150 kilometres north of Wilcannia near Tilpa.
Our family have been at Killara since 1979. Prior to that, our family came to Wilcannia in the late 1880s.
The luscious green grassy paddocks showcase the spoils of sodden floodplains. This area has had 2 floods in the past 12 months.
One was what we call a medium flood, which is a flood that covers 10% of our property beneficially, and we've seen an extreme flood where we've seen nearly 60% of our property covered in water.
Justin McClure and his wife Julie were forced to boat around their property for about 5 months during the most recent flood. This year, Killara has almost doubled its average rainfall, providing their soil the moisture to sow cereal crops.
We're opportunistic people and we grow crops when opportunities present. This is one particular example of where we've had a very good season and a very good rainfall event, and we've had beneficial flooding.
As the golden glow of the morning hits, final adjustments are being made before seeds are loaded onto tractors. From there, they'll be planted into fields which don't exactly resemble traditional cropping country. Tell me what we've got here, man.
What you got here? It's some nice grey black dirt. That is, very fertile. It's been under about 1 metre of water. Mm-hmm. So you've got organic sorghum, agitator, which will go to the organic chook market.
The back-to-back floods should sustain the McClures for the next 18 months.
Moisture is a huge injection to our business. It gives us security. It gives us security of planning. It lets us take the opportunities.
Workers are pushing to plant as much as possible. Justin is hoping they'll be able to harvest around 1,600 hectares this season, along with 800 the next. Workers know it'll be a busy few weeks trying to make the most of a potentially special season. For those up and down the river, the flooding, while inconvenient at times, has done wonders for the environment and the people whose livelihoods depend on it.
We'll probably collectively have to realise that as important as this basin is to keep growing stuff, like we need food, we need fibre, we also want that to persist, and we also want the ecology to persist, so we might have to move a little bit past the whole droughts and flooding rain mentality, and well, okay, that's true, but we might have pushed it a bit far. We're humans, we have an impact, we can accept that, and we can sort of turn that corner a bit, and I think that's where we're heading.
It's a natural phenomenon that and this is what they call floodplain country near the river, except, where we are because it's on a sandhill, but that's how it survives. It got that intermittent good long drink and then it went away again. It wasn't something that was, it was just natural.